Scream 7 is a legacy done right. Despite it missing what I'd see as core traits of a good Scream movie in a way, it manages to be a top 3 Scream movie for me, but I could just be saying that because it was my first big screen Scream experience. Time will tell. No Chase from Mythmaster here, and if you want to avoid spoilers for Scream 7, leave this video now. Are you gone? Good. I'm going to start off by talking about the killers, before moving on to the characters, which will be done from newest to oldest, before finally talking about the action, and basically everything I have to say about the movie. Again, massive spoiler warning, not just for Scream 7 but for all the movies that came before it. As someone who has accidentally heard about Scream movies in advance, even when I wasn't planning on watching them, if you haven't seen Screams 1 through 7, please don't watch this video, but a like, subscribe and comment would all be greatly appreciated. Normally, the killers and their reveal is one of the most important aspects of a Scream movie for me, if not the most important, and that's why when I made a short ranking all of the previous 6 Scream movies, they lined up with my killer rankings basically perfectly. This movie breaks that streak. While watching this movie I had 3 main suspects, and those were Sydney's neighbour Jessica and her son Lucas, and the creepy Dr. Marco. Lucas was first on my list, joining it in his first scene, and his mother joined him pretty quickly as I thought we'd be getting a mother-son duo for the first time in the franchise, and I thought it'd work with having one being connected to Sydney and the other connected to Tatum. And then the doctor joined my list because a creepy doctor sending his psychiatric patients on killing sprees seemed like something that could happen, and he would be the best explanation for why Carl was involved. McKenna Grace and that guy from Don't Worry Darling were also on my list for a bit, but well, McKenna Grace's character Hannah died, and the teacher guys seemed too obvious, and I honestly did just forget about him after he showed up after the Carl reveal. So I was really shocked when Lucas got killed because I was sure that it was him, but then when the killers did then take off their masks, I wasn't surprised about who it was. I recently made a video ranking all of the 12 major ghost faces, and I've updated my tier list and I will show it to you now. And to zoom in a little, you can see that the 2 ghost faces from Scream 7 are right at the bottom. Yes, even below Roman, who I've actually moved up a tier, as I'd already created a tier above, and needed to put these guys even lower. The reason that they are so low is because we barely had any time with them at all. The Doctor appeared in literally 1 scene, and Jessica only in maybe 2 before they revealed themselves. Jessica was definitely the better kill of the 2, because I actually remember her motive, and its ties to Sydney, while I remember nothing about Marco's motive. I had to look up his name to find out what it was, which did also have to do for some of the side characters, but I remember Jess's name. I think the television guy Robbie had more screen time than both of them combined before the reveal, and maybe even with after it as well. Also, one thing I noticed was that outside of just Tatum, names of both characters and actors from throughout the franchise have been repeated in this movie. So I may not have liked the killers, but I loved the Ghostface, and if that doesn't make sense to you, well, more on that later. So in this section I'm going to talk about the newbies, and that is basically everybody from Tatum's friend group and Tatum herself, as well as a few other characters. The friend group in this movie is around middle in terms of ranking Scream movies by friend groups or whatever. They are better than people such as Liv or Annika from Screams 5 and 6, and are better than most of the cast of Stab 3 other than Jennifer and maybe Angelina, but they are definitely below the Scream and Scream 4 groups, and probably beneath Scream 2 as well, as that group is basically just Derek, Hallie and Mickey, all of whom are solid or good characters. It was good to see a non-psycho and non-boring boyfriend in Ben, who was a good character for the stories of Sydney and Tatum, and didn't really do anything wrong. Lucas was the closest thing we had to a new Randy, but if anything was more of a Robbie or Charlie in terms of the role that he played, as this movie did not touch upon any movie types, other than having a true crime through line, which Lucas led. In a similar way to the killer's reveal, I think the genre or movie type in a Scream movie that kind of it reflects on is quite important. But in this case, I think it was probably done at the right level, and the whole true crime thing was mixed with the sub-themes of AI and technology, which again I'll probably talk about later, but might not. Hannah was good for the moments that she was on screen, and Chloe didn't do much, but the way she was framed didn't make her seem that important in a way, which is like better than someone with like a Liv from Scream 5, who was kind of positioned as a core member of the friend group, and survived up till the end, but didn't have much character at all. There's also the theatre teacher and the tech guy, Aaron, who was killed off screen, who both felt like present characters in the people's lives, so to speak. Sydney's husband Mark also falls into the category, which I just mentioned, and I don't have much to say other than he was a fine character, and he seemed like a good guy, though very importantly he was not Concade, which was a bit of a surprise. Finally, we come on to Tatum, who I'd say is the third best final girl in the series. She's above both Sam and Tara Carpenter, but as of yet loses to Kirby from Scream 4 and her own mother. I'll talk more about her later when I talk about Sydney in the legacy section, but I just want to say that Tatum was great and definitely deserves the name. Scream 7 saw the return of Mindy and Chad, or the core 2 if you'd like, given that the other members were absent. In Scream 5, I liked Mindy but didn't like Chad, and in Scream 6 Mindy became a bit more annoying, and I appreciated Chad more, but still liked Mindy, and to say all of this is writing, not acting. Scream 7 is the first movie where I've liked Chad more. The two played off each other really well, but while Mindy kind of wanting to take over from Gale was in character, it doesn't mean I had to like it. The twins felt a bit forced in at times and didn't exactly do much, but it was good to have them there given how much the New York incident was mentioned, and also just because I feel like we needed some characters from the more recent movies, so they didn't feel too disconnected. They helped kind of bridge the gap, if you get what I'm meaning. Now for the legacy section, which will mostly be about two characters, but will also have mentions of various cameos and even a location. Sydney Evans, was the heart of this movie. After maybe a slightly disappointing time in Scream 5, she came back swinging in this movie, and felt like a perfect continuation of her character, with lots of aspects of her Scream 4 self returning, but this time with her advised not going to a long-lost cousin who's actually a murderer, but to her own daughter. And it's not like this movie tried to pretend Scream 4 didn't happen, as Sydney's book Out of Darkness was quite an important part of this movie. We didn't see Jill in the Cameo Fest video, but I'm not that surprised about that given that I feel they basically just did whoever they could get for that video. Sydney and Gale's relationship felt like it came full circle in this movie to some extent. As they said, they've always had a complicated relationship, and have never really been friends other than in Scream 5, which, as I previously said, was Sydney's weakest appearance, which isn't really saying much because Neve Campbell is and always has been fantastic as her. Their relationship from the original carried over into Scream 2, but in both Screams 3 and 4, Gale and Sydney didn't share much screen time, with Gale's story mostly relating to Dewey or the new characters, and Sydney also relating to new characters, but normally characters other than the ones Gale was with. Gale Weathers is probably joint with Sydney in terms of character consistency, with her weakest appearances being in 3 and 5, but at least in 3 she was doing investigating, and in 5, she didn't actually do much there. At first I wasn't happy with what happened with her in 6, but her arc there has grown on me, and it does make sense, especially after looking back at 4, and I feel her arc continued well here, starting with her Ghostface sense taking her to Sydney, and ending with the interview in which both Sydney and Gale felt perfectly in character. One of my favourite characters in the franchise is Tatum Riley, who is the strongest character to only appear in one movie by far. She was brushed over and barely got mentioned in the sequels, which always felt a bit off, but everything to do with her and her legacy in this movie was perfect, which I know is a word I have used quite a lot. The conflict between Sydney and the new Tatum was the best part of the movie, with Sydney hiding her past away and Tatum wanting to learn about it. So even though the killers weren't satisfying, how they progressed Sydney and Tatum's story was good, and all of the Sydney guiding Tatum with a gun and in the safe room, and then at the end revealing why she chose the name and what it meant to her just really worked well in my opinion. Earlier I mentioned the Cameo Fest video, and normally a Cameo Fest is used as a bad term, but here it worked. Matthew Lillard looked like he was having a blast playing Stu Macher again, and he just seemed to fall back into it so naturally. His files being stolen weren't brought up in the finale if I remember correctly, so there's still a tiny chance he could be alive, but I've never been a subscriber to that theory, and hope that Stu is dead and buried. I was really surprised to see Laurie Metcalf and Scott Foley return to their roles as Nancy Loomis and Roman Bridger respectively, but they too seemed enthusiastic, else they probably wouldn't have been there. And as for Dewey, it was good to see him too, and I'm so glad that he was addressed by Gale after barely being mentioned in the last movie. There is one more legacy part of the franchise that has appeared in over half of the Scream movies, but which probably won't make a return, and that is the Mocker House, which was featured in the opening and also the AI videos. It being a tourist attraction in the opening was amazing, and it felt like a better version of the Ghostface Shrine from Scream 6, having two films to draw from, and having small things such as the Liv Mackenzie label on the wall. That is the legacy section done, so now to move on to the action section, which basically covers all of the set pieces and action scenes. While the killers may not have been the best, I firmly believe that this movie is the best that Ghostface has been since the original. This movie is by far the goriest, but the action, tension and overall horror are just done perfectly. There's multiple times where we just see Ghostface's mask in the darkness, or we see his silhouette, or he's just pacing on the other side of a door or wall. There's just so much menace to him in this movie. The Who Killed Who is fairly simple, there's not much to go on, but I will cover it all in my Who Killed Who video that I'm making, which will cover the entire franchise with my updated thoughts and notes. Plus I have a poll up on my channel, so check out my posts and vote on which thumbnail you think looks best. The Scream 7 opening was quite good. At first it felt a bit drawn out, but the action was then short and sweet. We didn't learn anything about the victims or why they were targeted, and I think the whole house thing was just done to make the Stu Macher thing seem more plausible. But the acting in the opening scene was good, and Madison being set on fire, after seeing how horrible it would be to be set on fire, was just a small nice thing, which just helped with the opening scene, and made it feel more rounded in a way. The next time we see Ghostface is at the theatre with the death of Hannah, which was probably my favourite part of the movie, and had the promise and payoff that I love from Scream movies, even if it is only really happened twice, with both of the previous occurrences being in the original. The chase in Sydney's house with Ghostface's car was also executed really well, pun absolutely intended, and it was interesting to have a mid-movie unmasking, after the last movie gave us our first opening scene unmasking, even if neither were our actual main killers, but at least this one helped us figure out who one of the killers could be. The extended chase and fight scene with Chloe felt really good, as did everything with Tatum in town. The post-curfew feel also felt reminiscent of the original, and the red right hand needle drop of this movie was very good. Marco was dealt with very quickly, but the brawl with Jessica and the mother-daughter Joe unloading into her face felt satisfying, and the previous scene in the garage was also good, even if Mark surviving maybe was a bit of a stretch, but we've had bigger stretches than that. Going back a bit, when Lucas was first thrown out of the kitchen, I thought the blood would be fake, as fake blood had been mentioned earlier in the opening scene, but then he was impaled, by his own mother no less, if I interpreted what was said correctly, on a spike in the joint most gory scene of the movie, joint with Hannah's guts spilling out. Basically, all of the Ghostface action in this movie was incredible, and Ghostface looked amazing in it. Scream 7 is in a way opposite to its kind of counterpart Scream 4 for me, as Scream 4 had okay Ghostface action but great Ghostface reveals and motives. See my Core 3 Screams 4's Amazing Characters video for more information. While Scream 7 had amazing Ghostface action, but very lackluster ghost faces. In terms of ranking this movie, it'd be third in the franchise for me, behind Scream 1 and 4, and just above Scream 2, which itself is quite a bit above Scream 6, 5 and 3. While it was not at all what I was expecting, I really enjoyed it for what it was, and can't wait to see where the franchise goes next. The only thing is, I don't really see where it could go next, as other than Taysom, none of the new characters survived, and I don't want to risk having another movie with Sydney as a focal character, because she's had such a good run so far, but we'll just have to wait and see. If you enjoyed this video, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated, and comment your favourite scary movie down below if you want to. Plus, ring the notification bell as I have plenty of Scream content planned, and maybe check out my old reviews and Scream videos if you haven't already. Remember, God loves you, have a good day, and ta-ta.